Welcome back to what is the 100th video on the RWBY podcast playlist, but not actually the 100th episode of the RWBY podcast because there's some bonuses in there. I am DC's 50-year struggle, 70-year struggle with their own continuity, Mediocrity 4, and yes, I did not pull that number out of my butt. That is how long they've been struggling. 1955, ever since they rebooted The Flash as Barry Allen and Green Lantern as Hal Jordan and created the Justice League, it's been all downhill for DC ever since. That's why Marvel's been handing them ass over fist in the sales numbers since the 60s.
Well, speaking of 100, I just started a 100+ hour long game today, so wish me luck. I don't know how long it's going to take me to finish that shit, but I'm dude.
It's me, high-powered. Hope you all enjoyed my cameo on the last podcast where I didn't know what the fuck was going on, and I'm missing out on Battlefield 6 open public beta to come here, so this better be good.
Hey, I stopped playing my game too, so you know what?
I haven't played a video game in like 2 weeks.
Okay, well, I'm not playing a video game. I'm reading a visual novel. I tried to sound slightly less lame, but
I also haven't done that in like 3 weeks.
Well, you could say that I am an awkward guy, yo. Or you could not. I am Robert, and if you can guess which 2 mangas I just got caught up on from that statement, you win. That is one of them. If you can figure out the second one, yay.
Speaking of manga, man, Chainsaw Man, oh boy.
Yeah.
I do plan on reading Chainsaw Man at some point, so try not don't spoil me.
I'm not gonna say anything more then, but when you get to it, it's gonna be great.
Although I have been spoiled on a lot of big plot points that have happened over the past couple of years.
The jingoist American is very happy with the current state of Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, and I, though, am personally more interested in the cool 90s Dark Horse ripoff of Chainsaw Man, which is Wood Splitter Man. Very, very interesting read in case you guys haven't picked it up. It's sort of on the fringe, but it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. Got canceled after 8 issues, of course, but still. I'm Coop.
The thing is, with it being Dark Horse Comics, I have no idea if you're fucking with us or not. Because that sounds like something Dark Horse Comics would do.
would actually publish, yeah.
And cancel after 8 issues.
And then cancel, yes, exactly, yes. Well, we watched a thing. Well, we watched 2 things. They existed, and they're not as good as Ice Queendom. We definitely knew that going in. I think the worst thing about... They're not the worst thing ever. If you like RWBY, then they're like okay slop. But one of my biggest complaints is that did anybody else? Well, okay, I have several complaints, but one of the biggest ones was the fights didn't really look very good.
No,
is that just me?
But
yeah.
by the way, like a big problem with this is that it is a bizarro universe where RWBY is doing Justice League a favor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, how far has DC fallen that RWBY gets top billing on all the plot and drama and character development in this crossover, and also the RWBY characters just are better?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. I was that's one of my biggest points I made. I mean, you saw all the notes I left in the and I think some of you guys did the same thing. I screenshotted my notes just to have them here, but I left them in the podcast chat. And one of the biggest ones was this reminded me, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about this more just in about the regular show, like RWBY. Nora is really overpowered against Grimm, like compared to almost all the other students. Like especially in this, like in the first episode of this one, in part 1, she's like overpowered as fuck. And it kind of reminds me that I'm watching through the series again now. And yeah, I know Pierre is supposed to be the best fighter in the first 3 volumes, but like if you watch
they give
the show,
all the cool stuff to Nora.
Nora does all the most important shit. She's the most overpowered.
Well, they barely touch
she
on
single-handedly wins their
they don't discuss that. Like, why is that not more
they don't, but this is
important within the later parts of the show? Because like, I mean, if you think just from the beginning, Nora's hammer / grenade launcher and her semblance, like they are super overpowered. Like, if you think of what should be good to fight Grimm, like, Ren's weapons are fucking useless. And then Nora's got her fucking giant hammer / grenade launcher, and she can supercharge herself. And then they even add that to her weapon, so she can literally just, like, activate her semblance whenever the fuck she wants. That's so OP. And, like, they start off the show with her being super fucking OP. Like, she dominates in that. She knocks all 4 people out in the fucking tournament arc, which, yes, I know that was terrible. Technically, it happens. It fucking happens. She's the one that kills the fucking scorpion thing.
It's canon. It's a canon event, Miles.
It's a weird
canon
fucking
event.
It's a weird fucking thing that, like, and the reason I'm talking about the regular show is because this part 1 of this show, of this Justice League RWBY crossover thing, is what made it really obvious, because in part 1, Nora is by far the most powerful person there. She's more powerful than Superman, for fuck's sake.
Which is so.
And he also has a hammer, which I know doesn't make any sense. I know it's fucking stupid. Exactly.
Yeah, they give Superman like a blacksmithing hammer.
Yeah, it made it so obvious that it reminded me, though, also, and I never really thought about it before, that she's also kind of the most overpowered against Grimm, even in RWBY the show itself, which she's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be Peter initially.
She's got a good weapon for it. Like, the thing about the Grimm is that they don't have auras. They have the tough hides and armored shells. Historically, hammers are really good about that. And this is something that, like,
More hammers, yeah.
I wish the show did more with it. It's something that a lot of fantasy stories do. It's almost like old hat, actually, where, like, there's a big difference between fighting monsters and fighting people. And I made this, like, a whole big, like, narrative through line with RWBY on, where, like, Nora and RWBY are really good at fighting monsters, not so good at fighting people. Pyrrha and Blake are really good at fighting people, not as good at fighting monsters. And so I kind of like then you have all around. Weiss is kind of good at both. Yang is really good at fighting monsters and really good at fighting certain types of people, but is bad against other types of people. Like I had the checks and balances there to make the fights interesting, and a lot of people, a lot of other fantasy shows do that. And RWBY, like, it's there if you squint and you kind of like headcanon it, like you discussed with, like, Nora just seems really overpowered. Nora also has not fought any, like, human being since the one clash with Tyrion in Volume 4.
Yeah, and she doesn't really need to. That's not really her job. She's a huntsman. She's supposed to be fighting.
Oh, that's right, Hazel, where, like, she smashed him once. Yeah, I forgot about
like
that.
her weapon's kind of slow, but, like, against a fucking Grimm, all you need to do is hit them. It's like, you know, people fantasize sword fights as being, you know, multiple blows against each other. If you look up historically, most of the time it's like one strike, right? So it makes sense. Like, she doesn't need to be the fastest. If she gets one hit on a Grimm, then it should be dead with how fucking powerful her weapon is. And then don't forget her weird little not crash out, but, like, her weird little rant that she goes on right before their fight in Volume 3, where she's like, I can bench 5 of me. Like, that's canon that she's probably stronger than anybody else, right? That's even without her semblance, most likely. She's just fucking strong as shit.
As much as I dog on the Volume 2 food fight for some weird decisions and weird, like, animation error stuff, it did a really good job at showing, like, which members of Team RWBY and which members of Team Juniper are, like, good matches for each other. And, like, we see Yang versus Nora in that moment, and Nora sends her into fucking orbit.
Yeah,
like, she is in the air for a solid, like, minute 30 before she lands again.
I remember people unironically did the math, and they were like, they calculated, like, the exit velocity and everything.
Yeah, like that was part of Death. That was part of the reason why she was able to beat Tifa in Death Battle. Because, like, the fact that she was able to just walk, the fact that Yang was able to just walk a hit like that off is why Death Battle decided that she was tough enough to, like, actually go blow for blow with Tifa.
So that's just the thing. I guess it reminded me of this because it's weird that the actual show doesn't. It's another missed opportunity in the actual show. I feel like that they don't get more into who's actually really good at fighting Grimm, and it always feels like when you watch the show that, for the most part, they try to make it seem like people are all kind of relatively equally good at fighting Grimm, when it it really shouldn't be that way, and it should be way more obvious that certain people are better at killing Grimm than others, for example. They do it a little bit with one-on-one person fights, but like if you think about it, so yeah, like Nora and RWBY by far are the best at killing Grimm. And I think Nora's probably, so far from what they've shown, she's probably the best actually. Because just everything for her like stats, like her strength, her weapon, her semblance, it just, if you just want to mow down Grimm and kill big Grimm, RWBY doesn't have the moment, like the firepower of her weapon, her strength, none of that matches up to what Nora has.
Yeah, she needs Silver Eyes to like do the same amount of damage.
This reminded me of that. It's just something that's kind of weird. Like
so dude, as just to like, I'm enjoying your glazing of Nora, but how did you enjoy the potential NTR between Cyberman, Nora, and
Hate
Ren?
it a lot. Hate it.
I hated
it. Worst part of the
I
first
hated
part.
that. Worst part of the first part.
I want to talk about something here because
not just that. I hated that they did it with Blake and with Yang and Wonder Woman too. They had Yang like have the hots for Wonder Woman. Like
that was actually kind of funny.
So it was funny, but it's still just going along with all of it. It's really cheap jokes. Does that make sense? Like, of course you're gonna do bullshit cheap crap like this in a crossover, and it's the lowest common denominator shit. And the other thing is like then they don't even follow up with it like at all. It just kind of ends in nothing, and that's exactly the problem. Like love triangles are usually really dumb and cheap jokes, and they're usually not very good writing. Okay, unless you're doing a really really good one.
And it's really cringe when it's a crossover because you're like in the back of your mind you're like these two are never going to meet again. Ever. Like, this isn't canon.
Yeah, and honestly, even the stuff with Weiss and Batman, it's like, really? Like, why does she have to have the hots for the one guy that she's talking to? Like, it just doesn't... It's so cheap that they did that with so many people. And the only reason they didn't do that with, like, RWBY and Superman is because RWBY just has never shown any... like romantic interest in anybody, and I just guarantee that they just wouldn't.
They dodged a bullet with that because,
but they dodged. And again, if they did that,
Superman
that would have been
so
worse.
intrinsically tied to like Lois Lane as like a romantic pairing that like, and the fact that she's like of dubious age.
Yeah, the only, and so yeah, it was not just the Ren and the Nora thing. Honestly, it was just all of it. To be honest, like I hated the Weiss and Batman stuff because it's like
okay, I like the Weiss and Batman stuff, and I am a White Knight stand.
That was the least bad. It was the least bad, but it's still if you take it if they had only done the Weiss and Batman stuff, I would have been okay with it. Then I would have been okay with it. It's just the fact that they did it with 3 different relationships at the same time, and you could kind of argue they kind of hinted at it with Jean and Green Lantern Girl too. So they really went for it all over, and that's the thing that was like lame as shit. It was just to me that's bad writing. It's not they're not actually doing anything interesting. There's nothing deep there. It's just like, oh, here's the cheapest fucking drama we can do, and we're gonna do it 4 times. That's just and then it's all gone by the second episode. That's the other thing. Then it's just gone. And then they have a whole second episode, and there's...
Yeah, Nora, Rain, and Jean are not even in part 2.
Yeah, what the fuck? That is what kind of makes it worth... If you're gonna do something, fucking follow through, you assholes. That's why I hated all of it.
Who did the writing for each part of this? Like, who was like the lead writers?
Wasn't it Carrie Shawcross?
I think it was Carrie. Yeah, I think it was Carrie. So...
Okay. There you have it, folks. We've gotten to the bottom of this. We know why it was like that the whole time.
Probably. So I felt like there was also a big like wasted opportunity with, I mean, kind of all over the place, honestly, and kind of to your point about how, the RWBY characters feel a lot more important than the Justice League characters, because in the first movie, they're trying to do this like they're trying to have this theme of like, teenagers are, more resilient, are better than you think they are. And you've got a character here who most of your audience is probably going to know was a teen superhero, right? That was where he got his start. That is probably what he's still most famous for. And they do nothing with it. They do this whole thing where he's just like flirting with, Ren's girl, which is, and honestly, if you wanted to have like, Cyborg getting buddy with Ren and Nora, that could actually be a fun thing if it's like, hey, you guys remind me of my friends. Yes, I had a, bubbly ginger as a friend who I used to run with, and a, kind of goth looking empath. I used to run with guys like you. This is really cool. They could have played off of that, but they didn't. They didn't do anything with, with his character or really with any of these other characters. Really... They barely did anything like unique that they would be uniquely qualified, that would actually deal with these characters, except for like Jessica Cruz and kind of Wonder Woman, although they kind of went with the most boring, I don't know, what I think is one of the more boring aspects of Wonder Woman, with the whole like, oh, she's a warrior and Blake is a warrior, kind of, but not really, when it seems to me that the more interesting commonality between Blake and Wonder Woman is they're pampered princesses who thought like that they were going to solve all the world's problems through force, only to discover that it was a lot more complicated than they thought. That to me is the more interesting story. And that's the story, and that seems to me to be the real story with those characters.
Yes, so. But remember, don't forget, we talked about. Oh, sorry, you weren't here, but we talked about this in one of the previous podcasts recently. Is that they would never do that because the writers are so bad that they don't understand Blake at all. That's why Blake is the worst character in the show, is because they don't actually think she's a pampered princess who thought she could solve all the world's problems and then realized she couldn't. That's not how they see Blake. The writers don't see her that way because they're stupid. So that's why they didn't do that. Because yes, good writers would do that. True. But they didn't. That's why they didn't. And the Cyborg thing is also the cheapest thing possible, because the only reason why he's flirting with Nora is because electricity. And that's the dumbest fucking surface level bullshit ever. It's
just his powers. That's all
it's so fucking lame.
The tech guy.
This all kind of gets into my biggest complaint with this crossover and why I avoided it for so long. A core appeal of crossovers is watching the characters interact as you would recognize them. I don't like this iteration of the Justice League.
Yeah, this iteration of the Justice League, I watched the 90s or early 2000s version of Justice League, like the one that was like
League and Justice League Unlimited. Oh, those are good times.
Yeah, that shit was so good. That's the Justice League I know. I'm not a comic guy, okay, but I did watch that version of the Justice League. I watched all of Batman the Animated Series. I watched all of Batman Beyond. Like, that's the era of animated comic DC that I grew up in, which let's be honest, that is probably the best era of DC in terms of like movies like TV shows, at least, right? That is the version I would want to have. Like, I would want, like, I don't recognize these versions at all. Like Superman, I know Superman, like, people joke about him being lame, but he felt really lame in this. I don't think Superman's actually lame. He just didn't feel heroic, like, at all in this.
It goes back to kind of what I said at the start, where, like, the RWBY characters, especially, like, when you compare how they are in this versus how they are in their usual setting, like, the RWBY-fied versions of the Justice League do not do the Justice League any justice.
No, they
don't. They make them so lame and dumb, and it's dumb that they made Batman a faunus that completely undercuts the whole core appeal of the goddamn Batman. He shouldn't even have a semblance. He shouldn't even have an aura. He should be the fucking dude in this movie who has to, like, figure shit out using his detective brain, world's greatest detective, by the way, supposedly, and do the stuff with all these handicaps.
And his semblance is detective vision from all of the video games.
Yeah, I had a note on that.
I thought maybe what they were going for with that was to, like, basically turn him into Superman, because, like, he can see through things, he can fly, he seems to have some modicum of, like, super strength in this, so maybe the idea was like, oh, he's getting to, like, maybe they were trying to do an arc there where it's like, oh, this is what it's like to be Clark. Wow, I'm actually jealous now, even though I usually try not to be, even though I, I'm usually pretty content here, but now that I'm actually experiencing it, yeah, this is actually kind of hard and actually something that I wouldn't mind in the future, but it's not. And then, he obviously overcomes that in the end, but yeah, but it is kind of weird.
Batman in this is probably the one that was done the most disservice in terms of the Justice League characters, if I had to say, simply because the fact that he was even tempted to stay in Remnant because he had a semblance and it made him feel special. It's like, Jesus Christ,
Batman
that's so pathetic. That is not fucking Batman at all.
Like, I don't like the idea of Batman being insane, but I do, like, Batman is loyal to Gotham City. Like, there's so many times where he's, like in the Justice League cartoon, where he's like, I'm only part-time. I'm only part-time because I'm spending 90% of my crime-fighting days just keeping the streets of Gotham safe. I don't have time for your world-ending bullshit. Call me only call me when you absolutely need my detective brain, because that's all I'm actually good for.
Batman would shoot Superman in the head with a kryptonite gun to save Gotham. That's how committed he is to Gotham.
I don't know if he'd go
Do you know how much fucking pussy Batman gives up just for Gotham? A lot.
There's a Catwoman joke in there.
Yes.
But
I'm literally talking about 2022, but which was a fucking great movie, by the way. Holy shit, fucking love that movie. But even before that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why Batman feels so off is because, like, he's the one we know the most about, just through cultural osmosis. Like, he's the one that everyone knows and has seen, like, dozens of movies from. Like, Superman kind of has that, but Superman has, like, an origin story that everyone knows. Not everyone knows, like, other stories outside of his origins, and then maybe the death of Superman. Whereas everyone who has heard of Batman knows at least the basis of, like, Killing Joke, Death in the Family, Nightfall, No Man's Land, which is my personal favorite Batman story, the Arkham games, the Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Long Halloween. Like, there's a lot of Batman stories that people who don't read comics are already familiar with. Like, we just through cultural osmosis have a much greater, like, basis of knowledge for Batman, which allows us to more easily pick apart when things are off about him.
So, speaking of Batman and Gotham, you have another, like, wasted opportunity here is, sorry, I guess we're not really going with, like, a blow by blow, scene by scene of this, but
we'd be here
I would not even be able to.
We can't.
We'd be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, but so we get but I also feel like they wasted an opportunity where Weiss is in the second movie, where Weiss is kind of like, my home's been destroyed, my home had a lot of problems. Like, at least this is what I thought was going on at first, and if I recall correctly, her thing was like, my home's been destroyed, it had a lot of problems, but it was still my home, and so I'm kind of dealing with, like, how I should feel about that. And it's like, and she's talking to Batman about this, who would definitely, seems uniquely equipped to talk about having a home that seems hell-bent on its own destruction, but sticking with it and trying to save it anyway, and still, wanting to help it rebuild after it's been destroyed. If anyone could comment on that, it should be Batman, but instead, it became all about, like, daddy issues for some reason, which is so... And it's like, come on.
It's some teen like romantic drama too.
Are you telling me that the writers of RWBY had the opportunity to have an actual relationship between two characters, i.e. in this case Batman and Weiss, based off of some actual shared trauma and some actual shared background life and stuff like that, and have it form an actual meaningful connection? And instead they just had Weiss have the hots for him just because reasons? Yeah. Are you saying you're surprised by this?
Yeah.
By the way, I had to Google it. We were wrong. Kerry Shawcross did direct these. He did not write these. The writer is Megan Fitzmartin, and y'all don't know who that is. I didn't actually know who that was by name. She's the one who ruined Tim Drake about 2 years ago. She's the one who killed Tim Drake, who like made him gay. Did the miniseries with him that only lasted like 8 issues and was horrible and like completely killed a lot of people's interest in Tim Drake, which is a shame because Tim Drake is my personal favorite Robin, and it just infuriates me how the last 20 years of comics have been not kind to him.
Okay, so I guess I can be glad then that the RWBY writers weren't this bad, because this is it's
we have to retract our statements
Director
now.
still has some power.
I can appreciate that. I still
Which
think
makes it all the more bizarre that the RWBY characters come out looking better in this.
Yeah.
Because this is a DC writer.
I think the reason why is because I don't see any like hardcore DC fans watching this because of RWBY. I don't see any RWBY fans watching this because of DC. I only see people watching this who are RWBY fans. So that's probably why. This is literally only appealing to RWBY fans. Like I don't read comics. Like I used to watch the old Justice League and Batman the Animated Series stuff when I was younger.
Can I get back on that? Because I had some more points to make about how I hate this iteration of the Justice League. So like I hate Cyborg being a member of the Justice League. Just full stop.
Agreed. He should be
so good in Teen Titans.
He is so good as like Nightwing / Robin, Dick Grayson's best friend. Like he is so good in that role.
Favorite character.
He's so good with his relationship, his friendship with Starfire in both the comics and especially
he's everybody's best friend. That's why he was so good in Teen Titans, is because he was like everybody's best friend.
Cyborg.
That's why he was my favorite character in that show. He was the best character in that show.
But when the New 52 happened, which was like 15 years ago now, they decided to make him a founding member of the Justice League. And they did it for no other reason than affirmative action. They needed a black character, and
they already had fucking Green Lantern. The best Green Lantern was.
But the New 52 is being held by Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns' favorite character is Hal Jordan. So part of the big New 52 shift was bringing Hal Jordan back and bringing Barry Allen back. And then
my favorite version of Green Lantern was the black one. That was the best version of the Green Lantern. He was such a fucking badass in the fucking Justice League in the 2000s.
John Stewart.
Yeah, John Stewart was fucking awesome.
Again, so in the Justice League cartoon, they actually used John Stewart instead of Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner for the same reason. They wanted a black guy. But they made him interesting. Like, he is more interesting in the cartoons than he had been in the comics before that.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing with him. Hal Jordan, comics-wise, is actually a much better Green Lantern than...
and he hooked up with the baddie Hawk Girl? Oh, man. What a lucky man.
Which one are you talking about?
Hal Jordan actually hooked up. I mean, Hal Jordan's been around long enough where he's hooked up with everybody at this point. But, like, I don't like Cyborg being part of the Justice League. I prefer him on the Teen Titans. There's so many other like black characters, like Mr. Terrific, who is actually having a massive resurgence. Like I think nowadays Mr. Terrific, like as of this summer, is more popular than he's ever been because people fucking love him in the new Superman movie. I haven't seen the new Superman movie yet, but like everyone's raving about how awesome Mr. Terrific is in that. Then of course, like DC has access to Malibu Comics, so they have Icon and Static Shock as well, if they want the minority hires.
Oh, dude, imagine. Fucking love Static Shock.
Imagine
Static Shock would have been Static Shock would have been better in this because he was actually like a Static Shock would have been better in this too because Static Shock was a teenage superhero in his own fucking TV show. That would have made way more sense.
They replaced Static Shock with Cyborg, and it would have been.
You mean replace Cyborg with Static Shock?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh god, that would have been so much better.
Yeah, I'm also not a big Vixen fan. I'm also not a big Jessica Cruz Green Lantern fan. She is my 5th favorite Earthbound Green Lantern, and I'm pretty sure there's only been 4.
She was the most milk toast boring character in this entire two movie part. Like she was so boring in both episodes, in part 1 and part 2, especially in part 2.
My thing with like Vixen is sort of she kind of gets like used in very bad ways in both the comics and in her movie roles and TV show roles that kind of like undercuts the character that she could potentially be, which she's got a very cool power. She can be in a lot of really cool action scenes. She usually is, but generally what they do with her is kind of like just kind of sort of like try to insert some drama into stuff. And even in the old Justice League cartoon, I did not like how they used her in that, because she was basically there just to like
Be the hypotenuse.
yeah, she just wanted to like shoot Hawk Girl's ankles out from under
Yeah, I was
her.
about to say, wasn't her
Yeah.
whole deal that she wanted to sleep with Jon Stewart, but Hawkgirl kept getting in the way?
Pretty
Am I
sure she
remembering
was.
that right?
Well, no, she actually had him. She was already in the fucking
They
bed.
were dating. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but she still
It's been a
couldn't.
while since
She
I've seen
still couldn't
Unlimited.
close the deal. But it
Yeah,
was,
Vixen was like, "You stay away from that snow bunny there.
which could
That's bad for you."
I think I have no idea how they would do it. Any way in which they would do it would be better than any way they have. But I think that if they wanted to, they could have put Vixen in the place of Cyborg in the Justice League and used that as an opportunity to actually do her somewhat seemingly well for once in her entire history. I think that's what I would have done. I would have been like, who's the worst black character we've got that nobody likes? We're going to put them in Justice League and make it so that people like them, because if we put anybody that they actually like in Justice League, they probably won't like that because we're ripping them out of their normal stuff.
See, they tried
But
doing that with Guy Gardner in the 80s, and it didn't really work out.
I was going to say, wasn't that kind of the point of the Justice Society at first? All these like superheroes that weren't as popular as Superman and Batman, just get them all together in one comic to try and
so
give them exposure?
The Justice Society originally in the 40s was like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Jay Garrick version of Flash, the Alan Scott version of Green Lantern, and Hawkman. And I think Aquaman was there too. Justice League was like the Silver Age reboot version of the JSA, and then the JSA became kind of its own thing with different characters later on. They have like a very weird like overlap between the two groups.
But Guy Gardner, he's just another Green Lantern, though, is the thing. Which, if you're going to bring in a new guy, I would say it's got to be a guy with new powers who's not like trying to be the replacement of an old guy exactly, like a one-for-one replacement, like Guy Gardner basically was. If you bring a new guy in, it's got to be a new guy. It's got to be a new thing. It's got to have some interest of its own that people are like, oh,
God, what was his name during the Grant Morrison run of Justice League? Like Azel? Not Azrael. Azrael was the guy from Batman Nightfall.
I have no idea what the fuck you guys.
I'm looking it up right now. Don't worry.
Okay. So
we're getting too much into this. We're too far into the comic shit. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
let's bring it back. Let's bring it. Okay, let's talk about the characters and their designs. Let's just focus on the characters and the designs.
I hate every single one of the... Okay, actually...
I hate all the designs. All of the designs with
fine.
The characters.
Vixen's is fine.
I'll give you that. But every other character, their version that is not in their original universe looks like shit. All the RWBY characters look like shit in the DC universe. All the DC characters look like shit in the RWBY universe. It's amazing how high their hit rate is how high their miss rate is. Which is crazy because in the RWBY universe, most of the RWBY character designs look pretty great. So I would love to know who the assholes were who fucked up all the characters.
I think RWBY. I think RWBY looks fine in her DC superhero
I think
outfit.
she looks awful. I actually think hers is the worst one. I think hers is one of the worst ones.
You see, I like Weiss because she looks like a 2-star version of like Saber from a gacha game.
Yes, Weiss looks like Discount Saber from like Fate. What's the gacha version of Fate? That's what you're talking about, right?
Oh, Fate Go, yeah, FGO.
Yeah, Fate
but
Go.
Then again,
this
has been my statement for forever. It's like, especially after her update, it's like, oh yeah, Weiss just looks like an off-brand Saber.
She's looked like off-brand Saber for like half a decade now.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad because original Saber's design still goes really fucking hard.
I will say this. I don't know, like...
Saber's better than Rin. I'm just telling you, Saber's definitely better than Rin.
So I will say this. I don't know what they did with Wonder Woman in her her original outfit. She looks terrible.
She does.
Like,
she also she's another one that like I just don't get her character in this at all. Again, I'm going back to the Justice League TV shows from the early 2000s. And she was
Wonder
so
Woman's in a very different place than she was when that show was coming out. Like if you're jumping straight in from like Justice League Unlimited into this, you're not gonna recognize any of their like characterizations except like maybe Superman and
I just think
partially
they're all
Batman.
better. I feel like they were all better. Not that I've watched recent Justice League stuff or anything like that. So in fairness, I'm not the best person to comment on that. But speaking of what I do know, the Justice League characters from back then were so much more badass. Like, I thought this was going to be a lot more of like the Justice League taking charge and taking Team RWBY under their wing and like actually teaching them something. Because if you compare that version of the Justice League that I'm talking about to this version of, you know, Team RWBY and Team Juniper, that version of the Justice League is way more badass. They are way better.
Well,
right?
they have so much more experience.
Yeah.
So much more experience fighting like every single fucking thing you can imagine.
That'd be nice for like Team RWBY and Team Juniper to learn from, and that's not really what they do. They don't really do that.
That's another thing that really bugs me about this crossover, and it's something that like any RWBY crossover is going to deal with the same problem, is that the Grimm just aren't interesting to fight. You just hit them. Like, literally anyone can do it. There's nothing special
which is why they didn't just do the Grimm.
them.
That's why they didn't just make it the Grimm. In fairness, at least they did kind of technically avoid that problem.
Yeah, by like mutating and upgrading the Grimm.
I don't hate that concept in general, but what I'm saying is I'm more of a RWBY fan than a Justice League or a DC fan, right? And I was still expecting more from the Justice League. I would have been completely fine with the RWBY team being second fiddle to the Justice League. In my mind, that's how it should be, even as a bigger RWBY fan than I am a Justice League fan, by far. It's not even close, right? So I would have been fine with that. And it's weird that they kind of tiptoed around that and made it so everybody was kind of on the same level in terms of fighting. I really don't feel like it should have been that way. It was very odd and uncomfortable, honestly. First of all, that Cyborg, who knows how old he's supposed to be in the Justice League, but I'm assuming that guy's supposed to be like in his late 20s or early 30s, and he's flirting with Nora like it's nothing. A little weird. But also the fact that they don't seem like, yeah, I understand like they're aged backwards, but they still have all their memories from being older. Even the actual RWBY show has already done a better job with that, with Jean aging up in volume 9 than the fucking fucking shit did, because it's really weird how like Superman's kind of a total bitch in this, and it doesn't really make sense. That is not. He should be a lot more. He should really be like everybody's fucking dad or teacher here, and he's not. And I think that's a big missed opportunity. Batman is even honestly more of a bitch, and is really, really lame in this. And again, he should just be telling Weiss what to do, and that should make her even hornier for him, because that's the way Weiss is. She likes older guys that tell her what to do. That would have made actually even more sense, and that's not what they do. The Justice League was done much worse than the RWBY characters. The RWBY characters honestly still mainly feel like who they are. I don't really have a lot of complaints about that, to be honest, in either of the episodes, right? Which is weird, because it's not actually a RWBY writer writing the show, as it turns out. But the Justice League characters just they feel. They just feel off. Like, they should still act more like the adults, I guess. And they only kind of a little bit do that with Superman, but not enough. And they don't do it with anybody else. And it just it ruins it to me.
I think they do a good job with Superman in part 2, and they do a good job like explaining like Superman is one of those characters where like he is either literal demigod status, or he is the guy who gets bitched out in the first 3 seconds of combat. There is no in between with Superman, and it's because like the kind of character he is, like and I hate that DC did this. There's actually
stakes of Superman.
There's actually like an in-universe explanation. There's actually 2 in-universe explanations for why Superman is so strong sometimes, but not so strong other times. I prefer the like solar battery explanation, but there's also like the God himself within the DC universe has decreed that like Superman is the embodiment of hope, and that his power will escalate in proportion to how high the stakes are. So if he gets taken down within the first 3 minutes, that means that literally anyone can actually handle this problem.
Yeah, the solar battery thing makes more sense.
Yeah, that's actually I actually really like that in the comics, the solar battery explanation, which they kind of introduced more with when Supergirl came in post Crisis to explain how Supergirl is so much stronger than Superman, but only sometimes.
Potentially.
Like Supergirl is able to metabolize sunlight faster than Superman is, but Superman's able to store it more. So he's always got that reserve, that little bit of extra strength he can do whenever he really needs to hit someone really hard.
Okay, so real quick, can I let me compliment a couple things real quick, because I've been basically just shit talking this thing the whole time. It wasn't that bad. It was bad. It definitely was not good. But it wasn't the worst thing I've ever.
But I had fun.
Yeah, it was slop, but I just wish the action was better. If they're going to give me slop. Two things that kind of worked though. One, I do love how Yang is just making fun of all the DC superheroes and supervillains.
This is actually really funny.
He's just making fun of them the whole time, and I fucking love
There's a
that.
lot of good jokes in this.
It is actually pretty funny.
One when Ozpin's glitching out, and Superman goes is him turning into a small boy his semblance? I'm no, but kind of.
Yeah, but kind of it is actually. Yeah, it actually kind of is.
The only reason he matters.
Yeah,
the only reason he exists.
And Ruby has that look on her face, I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibility, but I'm not going to just explain Ozpin's whole deal to you. We don't have the time.
But Yang the whole time, it works so well. And Barbara's not a great voice actress, but what she can do is snark really well, because that's just that's who she is in real life. So when they just give her snark lines, where she's just laughing at Superman, lol, or when they laugh at the fucking Flash names.
That.
It was so funny, because in fairness, it's true. DC superhero stuff in general, and especially DC stuff, Jesus Christ, the names are so fucking lame, right? I mean, but Superman comes from what, the 1930s, right? I think that's when he first came out.
Him and Batman are products of the 30s.
Yeah, of course it's going to sound lame at this point, but you know what? I like that they can make fun of it. It was actually pretty funny, and I like how that was one of the things that was very consistent throughout. Yang keeps doing that; she does not stop with that shit. And so I know that
Ruby. I like how
I thought that was pretty funny.
Cringing every time he says that he's Superman. They're just seriously?
Clark. You can call me Clark. I like that. I like how he actually introduced himself as Clark, because that's a pet peeve of mine with the Snyderverse. Had him be I'm Kal-El. No, you're Clark Kent. You're from Kansas. Yes, you were technically born on Krypton, but you've been on Earth since you were a baby. You are a naturalized citizen. You're not and this is something that the comics do all the time, where they oh, he's an immigrant. He's an illegal. No, they officially adopt him. He's naturalized. He's got all of his paperwork.
If he could go back to Krypton and save it and fit and clean it up himself, he absolutely would.
Well, he wouldn't be able to because Red Sun.
Well, true.
I would say this. I would say this about the name jokes, though. Yeah, I personally didn't find them funny, because what would you have called Superman? You know, you got a better name, Yang. You got a better name for the guy who has all of the superpowers.
Well, again, but to her point,
does super things.
Her point, in her universe, he wasn't that super. That's the thing, and that's that. But that picks up the other problem that we talked about, which was that the Justice League was way underpowered throughout this entire thing. Again, I will reiterate, throughout both episodes, Nora was the most powerful person in this whole fucking thing, which Nora, first of all, Nora's actually only my third favorite character in RWBY, okay? It's between Weiss and RWBY for number one, and then Nora's definitely third. So I'm not just glazing Nora. But either way, she should not be more powerful than fucking Superman, or even Wonder Woman, let's be honest.
Well,
okay?
They kind of do a little bit work around that in certain ways. They do give various reasons to where you could be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. In the first one, they're all in a simulation, which adjusts their power levels accordingly, presumably.
Well, yeah, that's presumably. That's the thing, though. They don't say that. We're not supposed to know that at first. So
I think
to
it's a
us, they
pretty
should
easy.
be.
I think it's a pretty easy thing to infer, though,
Well,
given the
yes,
fact
that's
that they
true.
give
But
Batman
still, it's
powers.
like.
They do
But then,
clearly change things about people. So
yeah, but then I would argue though that it's consistent between everything because even when they go into part 2, it's not like then the RWBY
yeah,
team
they're
is,
also in a simulation for a large portion of that.
but not the whole thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but
I still think thematically it would have worked better if the Justice League were more in charge and more of the teachers for the RWBY characters.
yeah,
I feel like
probably.
that would have been a better way to do it.
I do think that's the case. I don't think that that's like reliant upon them having as much like physical power as usual, though. I think that's
Fair,
more of a
fair.
character thing. I think.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that that the Justice League are on average way older than the RWBY cast. Like the RWBY cast are like 19-ish. RWBY's 17-ish question mark. Whereas like Superman has been 35 years old since 1939.
For
And I
12
mean, if we're
billion
like
years.
similar levels, even if we're like attempting to use comic continuity levels of experience with it, which would be a whole pile of worms in and of itself, but let's go with that. Superman has in the comics now been doing the superhero work for several years at least, if we're trying to like go off the current timeline.
They always say like it's been 10 years. And then every time they reboot, it's like, okay, all the major events that have happened, they were going to keep canon. That all happened over the past 10 years, which works for Superman. It does not work for Batman because they keep all the Robins.
Hey, you can go
10
through
years,
a lot
yeah.
of Robins in 10 years. 10 years is a long time.
They refuse to cut the fat with all the Robins, so it's like Batman is going through a new Robin every 2 years.
Hey, have you ever hired somebody for a minimum wage job? That's what it's
Jeez.
like having a Robin, okay? Like
Batman goes through Robins faster than Taylor Swift goes through boyfriends.
Man, especially in the early 2000s. Like, poor Stephanie Brown. She was literally Robin for 2 issues. The equivalent of a weekend.
She might be dating
Wow, I didn't know it
Justin
was that
Trudeau
short.
now.
What?
hey,
Huh.
you heard it here first, folks. We're
What?
bringing you the hottest gossip.
Comic book character Stephanie Brown, aka the Spoiler, is
No,
dating
I think he was.
what?
I think he meant. I think he meant Taylor Swift is dating.
Taylor
Oh.
Swift.
I thought she was still with the football player for the Chiefs.
No, they broke up.
Oh, well, shows how much I pay attention to.
Well, look, they
Twitter.
look. They can't have her
Taylor
actually
Swift.
date
That's because you're
anyone
sane.
for. Like, look, let's be blunt. The powers that be can't have her date anyone for too long because as soon as she gets pregnant and has a kid, you know, all the white Taylor Swift fans are like, I gotta have one of those now.
It would be a wave of babies on par with the boom of the end of World War II. I think honestly, it would. Society just couldn't handle it.
That's true.
But,
Basic white women would be having and buying babies left and right. Taylor Swift had a baby.
I'd be
Yes.
selling them too. I'd be making money off that shit. I don't care. I have no moral compass, guys. It's gone.
What the fuck happened to this conversation?
I'm sorry.
High-powered happened. What are you talking about? High-powered.
You see, y'all wanted to be on the podcast, and
This is what
you'll
we get. This is what we get for actually having him here. What are you talking about?
I just wanted to name drop my fourth favorite Bat Family member.
Tim Drake?
Well, that's your problem for making
Stephanie
him.
Brown. I fucking love Stephanie Brown. I love Spoiler.
That's your problem for making the most obscure reference possible. Like, you're making obscure references with obscure references with obscure. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Remember, I don't read comic books. I have no idea.
She was in a few episodes of Young Justice, and that's basically it as far as like things you may have watched go.
That's a shame. She seems pretty cool.
Yeah, she's like her whole role in the Bat Family is being like the normal one who like isn't a prodigy in anything Batman related, but she just has all this gumption and all this like anime protagonist energy, but then gets the shit kicked out of her every single fucking storyline she's in, and she fucking dies like half the time, or damn near dies half the time. And then there was also that story arc where she went through teenage pregnancy, and it was actually like really well written.
I didn't know about the teenage pregnancy thing, and then I also know that her dad is a villain.
Yep, Cluemaster
is basically a wannabe Riddler.
A C-list wannabe Riddler. But no, Stephanie Brown was like a major love interest for Tim Drake for decades.
Yeah,
she was created by Chuck Dixon, who got really big writing the Robin solo series throughout the 90s. And Stephanie Brown was introduced as like his equivalent to like a Catwoman. And then they like hooked up, and it was really endearing. And that's when she like found out she was pregnant from like a previous boyfriend. It was like it was actually like really well written, touchy subject, which is not something you would expect from 90s comics.
Nice.
No, in the era of fucking Spawn and Rob Liefeld, we got like one of the most enduring iterations of like a teenage pregnancy storyline.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to explain the Dark Age of comic books to me later in a different point in time.
Back on topic,
but I am very curious.
I have another complaint that I want to make that I think media kind of mentioned as well, that we talked about before we actually like started recording this podcast, which is a problem that is an issue with a lot of crossover things, which is what I was most worried about when watching this, because I didn't really mind if it was shit, because it kind of was, but I didn't have a terrible time, honestly. Like, I didn't hate watching this. I didn't struggle to finish it. It was fun. Whatever, you know? But the whole issue of they did the thing where clearly this isn't canon, because it would be fucking stupid if it was, because cross-universe bullshit is really fucking stupid. But they still kind of hinted at it being canon, and that makes me very uncomfortable, and I hate it. And in fairness, again, this is not the only thing that does this. It's a very common thing for crossovers to hint at the crossover events being canon. I don't know why people always feel the need to do that. It's the most annoying trope ever. I will take a fucking tsundere emoto trope over this, and I hate that trope, but this just pisses me off. Like, discuss. I hate it. It's dumb.
They had some balls making the part 2 happen after Volume 9. They had some balls having them be in vacuo and trying to like address shit from like Volume 9.
I was so confused by that. I was like, when I started part 2, I was like, what in the fuck is going on right now? We haven't even Volume 10 wasn't even under production then. Like, what in the fuck are they doing? And everybody just seems like kind of okay.
Finished? Like I don't remember.
I don't think it was.
Like,
I think Volume 9 had just finished.
Let me see, because this came out in 2023, right?
I think it came out like right after, pretty soon.
Oh,
after
RWBY Volume 9 came out in 2023, like around the same time, basically, like in the same year.
Yeah, I did. A part of me was a little bummed that they didn't like this was one thing where I was kind of like, I don't know, I was a little bummed that they didn't have Jean appearing in the second one, because him suddenly being aged up again would totally have, like, that would have been like, just seeing him freak out at that would have been hilarious. But I mean, to your point, that probably, I don't know, probably wouldn't be a great idea, because I don't know, I guess. Because it probably would have meant that he would have maybe worked through some crap, which I don't know. It seems like maybe kind of hint that maybe he still has some stuff to work through in some of like the previews that we've got.
Volume 9 ended the same week that Part 1 came out.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is that to me, that the fact, I know it's not canon, it's stupid, but the fact that they hinted at it all just cheapens it to me, because it's like. Volume 9 was very heavy, which I loved. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. The end of Volume 8 was very heavy. I really enjoyed that as well. And just having them, yes, I see that RWBY, first of all, how RWBY is at the beginning of Part 2 doesn't really match up with how she finished off volume 9 either, because she kind of goes through a similar arc in part 2 of this thing, of this Justice League crossover that she does in volume 9, and it's like,
She
why
goes
do you
through
need
the
to...
same arc that Blake did in volume 2.
It's a bit weird, yeah, and you're right. It is very similar to what Blake does in Blake's arc in season 2, but that cheapens what she did. If again, it's not canon, but if the fact that they're hinting at it, that cheapens Ruby's arc in volume 9, and also just the fact that, dude, if they like just got back and everybody found out they were alive, they would not just be sent on their own, just them four, off to do their own shit apart from everybody else. Everybody else would be like, no, you guys are staying around here with us. We're protecting you too. You are not going off on your own as Team RWBY again right now. That's not fucking happening, right? Jean would not just go back to Team Juniper. That's not fucking happening, right? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. And it just, it cheapens the situation that they're in with Salem and everything too. They would not just be out on their own just defending Grimm. They would be trying to figure out how to fucking kill Salem and how to survive and stuff like that. They would not just be out on their own separately. That it doesn't make sense. So that's, again, it's,
I mean, we'll see what goes on in volume 10. But
well, if they're not stupid, then that's what they won't do any of that stuff. Which, again, I want to give them credit because volume 8 overall was mostly pretty decent, and especially the end I thought was good, and volume 9 was good. So I'm trying to give them credit here that they wouldn't be that stupid, and doing all this kind of cheapens that. I know the writer was not actually a RWBY writer now, so that does make more sense, but I just never like, and again, it's not just this show. Anytime people do crossovers, it's like, it should be made way more obvious that it's not canon. I would much more enjoy like they did the opposite of what I would have wanted, where they like woke up from like the dream, but they actually remembered everything, so they know it was quote unquote real. Where I would have much preferred like if they just woke up, it's like, oh, that was a funny dream, bye. Like clearly making it obvious that it's not canon. That would have been better, or just not try to tie it in at all. Basically, I don't know. That's what I
that would
preferred.
be for the best. But like this is a thing that crossovers do all the time, where like they try to like jam it into the continuity of the moment. Like I talked about this a little bit before we recorded, where like the original Marvel DC crossover was Spider-Man, Superman from the 70s. Great comic cover, pretty decent story, but like they reference stuff like the death of Gwen Stacy and that. And that's one of the reasons why like they couldn't use Green Goblin as the villain, even though Green Goblin was like Spider-Man's most notorious foe. At that time in the comics, Green Goblin was dead, and dead actually meant fully dead in Marvel back then. Hard to believe, I know. And that's also why like Lex Luthor in that, who is also in that crossover, uses the power suit, which is pretty famous now. But kryptonite isn't Superman's main weakness, because it wasn't back then. His main weakness was red solar beams. And so it's like it tries to shoehorn it into like this merged continuity, like, oh, Marvel's New York and DC's Metropolis have always been like a short drive away. They just don't ever mention or reference each other because reasons. This is not like that. Obviously, this is much more in the second type of crossover, which is like Portal Fantasy. They crossover using portals with what was that?
Isn't Metropolis supposed to be in Maryland?
It depends on the writer. It depends. Yeah, it changes from writer to writer. Same thing with Gotham City. Sometimes it's like where Boston is. Sometimes it's New York. Sometimes
I feel like if it's supposed to be in Maryland, it should be a lot.
In the Chris Nolan movies, it's literally just Chicago.
I feel like Metropolis, if it's supposed to be in Maryland, it should be a lot shittier.
I thought Metropolis was supposed to be in Kansas because Superman is from Kansas and he always like visits his parents really quickly.
Well, he's also Superman. He literally just flies there. It takes him like 3 seconds.
Sometimes I see him going there in a car, like fucking like.
Comic book time.
I'm pretty sure it's like just in the middle of Kansas. I'm pretty sure.
I think in the Smallville show, it probably was actually.
I know Central City, where the Flash is from, is literally just supposed to be St. Louis.
Yeah. I mean,
another reason why Flash comics are the best of the bunch. Except they're not. I'm lying. They're really not. But I am a fan of like some 90s Wally West comics.
Fair enough.
I think it should be in Kansas because I don't want it in Maryland. Okay, Maryland should get nothing. I hate Maryland. Death to all Marylanders.
Oh.
Even you, Baltimore.
Well,
Fucking
especially
Ravens.
Baltimore. That's honestly, Baltimore is the main reason for it. The rest of the Maryland guys are kind of okay. But Baltimore, never have you seen a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Okay.
Dude, I every show I've ever watched that ever references Baltimore just talks about how it's like literally the worst place possible. Like even fucking the Expanse, which is supposed to take place like 300 or 200 or 300 years from now, talks about how Baltimore is still the shittiest place in the world. Like it's referenced many times, and they go there, and it's the shittiest place in the world. Like the most badass, unhinged guy in the entire series is from Baltimore, and the reason why he's like that is because he's from Baltimore. And then they actually go to Baltimore, and it's as shitty as you think it is. So yeah, everybody just always shits on Baltimore. That's like the whole thing.
Weird little hint though. In the Expanse, actually, Baltimore did actually go through several successful reforms in the backstory of that show, and it's actually much better off in that show than it currently is. Sci-fi Baltimore is essentially the utopian form of Baltimore in the Expanse.
Interesting.
Okay.
I have no idea if he's fucking with us again.
He could be. I don't know. I haven't read the book. I've only watched the show. I haven't read the books yet. So if he's talking about the book,
I've not seen either.
I've watched the whole show, and what he's saying is definitely not true in the show. But technically, there is. I haven't read the original. I have not read the original manga. Okay.
Yeah, this is what happens when people talk about things outside of my wheel of knowledge. It's just like I just assume they're fucking with me.
Media, you gotta understand. I was completely honest about Dark Horse's 90 years run. Okay, like you should actually read the Baltimore comics from Dark Horse from back then. I know there were only 2 issues. But they were really good. Okay,
actually, you speaking of that, Coop, like I have one. Like I bought one. It came in at the pod shop. I worked at the pod shop. I bought one. It cost me like $3,000, but I have it. It's mine. It's in a sleeve.
Yeah, those things will go for a lot, especially if they're signed by Rick Carey, who was the author.
You know what we should do one of these days? We should like make up some like RWBY project and talk about it as if it's just a thing that exists and that they can find and watch.
See if we
just spend a whole hour just gaslighting people.
Where do we get this? Holy crap!
Oh, man, the episode.
Check our improv skills.
I feel like if we wanted to do that, we would just come up with Ice Queendom.
Yeah. Yeah, that does feel like something someone gaslit into existence.
Yes, Weiss becomes a fucking dictator. Jean gets a Lolly Weiss army. Blake actually becomes a fucking beast faunus with claws and shit. RWBY becomes a professional snowboarder. I mean, could we come up with anything wackier than that?
I kind of wish that Justice League had brought in Beast Boy to interact with Blake. I feel like that would have been...
They just needed a crossover with Teen Titans instead.
Teen Titans would have been better, yeah.
It would have actually been a lot better, yeah.
It would have been a lot better.
That would have been good.
Cyborg's presence would have made sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, have Cyborg interact with Yang, have Nightwing have them all interact with everyone, but the 5 Teen Titans that everyone knows, and then you'd have like RWBY and Jean. You'd have
I can just imagine this scene, like Starfire just walks up and kisses John, just like tongue and everything to like learn the language, and as they speak like English perfectly fine, it's like, oh, I actually didn't have to do that. Oops. And John's just like,
make a weird love triangle between Starfire, Jean, and Weiss.
Yes. Yeah, a super jealous Weiss because she's like, wow, this bitch.
That's a love triangle I could get behind. That one I'd get behind.
Would they use those Teen Titans though, or would they use whatever the current Teen Titans are? I'm not certain what the current Teen Titans are. I've not heard.
It's been years, but as far as I know, it is those people, and it's like those 5 as well as like
they brought Donna Troy back.
Yeah, they brought Donna Troy back, and I think one of the Aqua lads I think is back too. But this was like 3-4 years ago when I checked.
I just would, that would be so much more fun. I'd love to see Raven and Blake like have an emo contest like that. That alone would be just such a fucking funny interaction. Like just having
or John trying to give Raven a motivational speech and it just goes nowhere and falls flat.
In the back, like years, it's not gonna work.
Raven's just like, all right, whatever. I guess I'll dispel the what's it called. Using magic to counteract Kilgore's silence. No, we've gone this far.
Well, no, because if you have Teen Titans, you can have fucking Slade, Deathstroke be one of the villains.
Dude, Slade. Okay, I will say this.
Like Deathstroke and Tyrion. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. We need to start writing this down. Okay, so you have Tyrion and Deathstroke teaming up to take down the Teen Titans and Team RWBY.
Yes,
I would watch.
This is already so much better.
I guess it would be somewhat of a similar dynamic, kind of like you would have you'd have the loose cannon and the straight edge guy. It would be kind of a cool duo, I guess. Like,
but then you don't have to have the whole thing of them making fun of Kilgore the entire time. It's like, Jesus Christ!
And maybe you could get a good fight out of it.
Why are we actually watching this? Why does this even matter?
Speaking of
then the relationship, and then the whole more equal relationship between all of the characters in both sides would make a lot more sense if it was the Teen Titans versus the Justice League. I wouldn't have the same complaints about that then. And then even the cheap, dumb romance shit, like, yeah, if Starfire started hitting on, or it's like Blake had the hots for Raven or something like that, and Yang got jealous, that would make a little bit more sense than the shit that they did, for example. Not that I'd still want that, but if they felt compelled to do that bullshit, it would at least make a little bit more sense.
I don't know.
Speaking of the villains, man, I do like what they did to Watson this one though. They give him a cool cyborg suit, and he barely gets to fight in it. I'm like,
yeah, he throws just 3 punches, like it just spawns Scrim. Like it's such a disappointment. Speaking of the villains. And this is another problem that like RWBY is just going to inherently have with anything it tries to cross over with. RWBY doesn't have a rogues gallery. They have Salem and Salem's lackeys.
That's kind of a rogues gallery.
And that one guy from that one video game that we all played for like an hour.
Who they do name drop. I have 100 hours in RWBY Grim Clips high powered. I'll have you.
That's more. Wait, let me check my stats real quick. I'll tell you that's more embarrassing.
I have 101 hours, and I'm still missing like 2 of the trophies.
I have almost 500 hours in VR chat, and that's more embarrassing than 100 hours in RWBY Grim Eclipse.
I just thought it was hilarious how the entire time they're talking about Kilgore, they're like, what? That D-lister? Like the whole time they're just ragging on him. It's all like, okay, so I guess this isn't a threat. So much for me trying to look this guy up and find out what his deal is, because they're just like, what? Kilgore?
Kilgore with the % sign because the person who wrote him is a fucking idiot.
Come to think of it, like, I forget, did the movies explain or not how it was that Kilgore and Watts even met each other or anything?
It is not really explained, except that they were like in the network. There's no explanation to like, apparently the DC universe and the RWBY universe share like an internet cloud.
So WB?
Speaking of other things that don't make sense, I want to point out another thing that RWBY says in part 2, where she says, I just want to get as much done before I do too, which reference to like heroes falling. So she's basically saying, I just want to get as much done as I can before I fall. That makes no fucking sense for that line to come from her mouth after Volume 9. Because if this is supposed to take place after Volume 9, it's fucking stupid. It's supposed to take... That would be something she would have said.
Supposed to have made peace with
before. Yeah, exactly. That's something she would have said.
To live. Yeah.
That's something she would have said before, or more accurately, during Volume 9, not afterwards. So that's another thing that's like, what the fuck. Also, why the fuck does Yang feel more like a sister in this than she's ever felt in the actual show?
Oh, dude! Like if they could at least keep the Yang that we had in these 2 episodes into Volume 10, that will be a dramatic improvement of her character.
It's like the best thing about this is Yang is actually pretty well done throughout this. I have to be honest. She is way more of a sister. She's funny the whole time.
She's still up Blake's ass a lot.
She's still up Blake's ass, but that's fine. Here's the thing. I'm a hopeless romantic. I'm the kind of person that, like, yo, if you're really into the person you're into, just fucking go for it. Whoever you want. You know what I mean?
I
have no problem with
married man.
I have no problem with that. Oh, I didn't tell you. I got divorced, dude.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
You weren't here for that. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Holy shit.
No worries. But I'd still that doesn't change like who I am at heart, right? Like that's still the kind of person I am, right? That's always who I've been. So I don't have a problem with Yang being up Blake's ass the entire time. I find it adorable, actually, to be honest with you. Even though I don't even like Blake. But it's fine. Like, if that's Yang's personality.
My issue with that has always been, like, it being that instead of exploring the more interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I'm saying, in this, it actually works because she still acts like a sister to RWBY and she's up Blake's ass. You can do both things. And weirdly,
believe it or not, characters can have more than 2 personality traits.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I wonder if they should have told that to the idiot who wrote Nora's Crash Out in Volume 8. And yes, I am still talking about that because, yes, you can have a personality outside of Ren and still be hopelessly in love with him, you idiot. But yeah, Yang, same thing. It's like she can be crazy for Blake and be a good sister at the same time. As dumb as Blake is, she's not gonna begrudge Yang of that, and it works. Yang's the best character, I think, throughout this whole thing. In these 2 parts, and she's actually a bit better. She's a bit better actually than she is in the actual show, which is a little bit sad because that's not. Well, again, the RWBY characters are actually pretty decently well done in this. Besides the fact that it's supposed to connect Volume 9, other than that, they're pretty actually consistently done. I would say the Justice League heroes suffer the most from this, but I really hope somebody takes a lesson from how Yang was in this and applies that to Volume 10. That would be very, very nice because that'd be a big improvement for her.
For character moments, I mean, y'all might not like them, but I do actually enjoy like the moments between like Superman and RWBY, like especially in part 2. Like, you know, Superman's like, "Hey, you're gonna crash out there, lady." You know, it's like you chill out there. Like I did like that. I do think there's substance to it.
And Superman's like always been like that, where like World of Cardboard, everyone knows that monologue. But there's also like a really famous Superman story called The Day Without Superman, where for contrived reasons he has to replace Atlas, the Greek Titan, to hold up the sky for 1 day to give him his like 1 day off that millennium. And the whole story is just him holding up the sky while everyone else has to bust their ass and do like triple time in order to make up for all the like random bullshit that Superman deals with every fucking day. It's like there's so many crises and stuff that like people don't even realize or don't even know about because Superman solves the problem before it like gets out of hand. And he's just constantly like flying or like spends every waking hour listening in, stopping all these natural disasters, and the Justice League has to like fill that void. And by the end of it, they're all just like dead, tired, exhausted. And Superman's like, "Oh well, that was fun. How are you guys doing?"
Nice. That kind of sounds like something that I don't know to maybe address in the DC universe. That maybe Superman does kind of make us overly complacent, which I seem to recall is one of the problems.
That is the plotline of a lot of Justice League stories.
Yeah. I seem to recall that's the problem that like Lex has with him and like Lex Luthor Man of Steel, isn't it? Like
you're gonna drag the various iterations of Lex Luthor have had that issue. Lex Luthor's such a nothing character overall. Like he's had so many different iterations that are just so completely different personality wise. Like the only consistent trait is that he is against Superman. Everything else is an elective.
Yeah, I think the Superman thing is from what I've seen of it, they usually reference that like his mere presence kind of prevents a lot of stuff. Like a lot of people are not going to do crimes while Superman they know is around. Like that's just sort of a thing. Uh, which makes a lot of sense.
Him and Flash have been like portrayed in that same regard, where like Central City and Metropolis don't have crime the way that Gotham does, because every time someone like shows up to a bank with a gun, they're behind bars like 3 seconds later, because Flash will just be like, "Oh nope, you're done," or Superman will just literally like just airdrop them into a prison.
Which is kind of weird because Batman also shows up and puts people in prison almost immediately, but beats the living shit out of them beforehand, unlike Superman and Flash do many times. Like, Flash will probably just carry you to the prison very quickly. Superman might wrap you in like a light post, maybe if you're especially bad, but that's about it. Like, it seems to me like getting beaten up by Batman, having that as a risk, would kind of put me off of crime even more.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure there's a story where like Joker tried to like plant a bunch of bombs in Metropolis, and before he even like was done with the ransom note video, because he's Joker, he always has to live stream his bullshit. Superman had already like used his super hearing to hear like the radio signal connecting Joker's device to all the bombs, and he just shows up in the middle of the live stream like, "Hey, Joker, I got your bombs. You're going to prison now. Take you back to Gotham."
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is that Batman is Batman, has to be rough with bad guys because he can't just sweep them off to jail, so he has to try and like, he has to do it like that to kind of compensate for it, and
he does compensate is the thing. Like he beats the crap out of a lot of them very frequently.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like about Tower of Babel, that like Tower of Babel itself never really, I think, did justice. It just paid lip service to it. Tower of Babel is the famous Justice League story where Batman has all the contingency plans. The thing then get taken by in the comics it's Ra's al Ghul, in the movie version it's Vandal Savage, and gets turned on the Justice League. But like at the end they like have the vote to try to like see if they want to keep Batman in the Justice League or not. And Superman asks him like, "You had all these contingency plans for all of us, but you didn't have one for yourself. What's up with that?" And Batman just looks at him dead in the eye like, "Are you serious? Are you for real right now? My contingency for myself is the Justice League, because if I go rogue, you can just punt me into orbit. Green Lantern can scramble my brains with his magic ring. Flash can literally just impale me if he wanted to. I am terrified all the time because I am a guy in a funny bat costume surrounded by people who can break the planet."
Yep. Yeah, Yang. You think that bat costume is funny now? You think being a guy named Batman is so funny now, huh? You don't know what he's got to go through.
And you got to remember, too, in the Old Testament, the Tower of Babel was whenever God punished man for the hubris.
That was the B plot of that storyline, is that Ra's al Ghul was getting the Justice League out of the way so that he can use a device that scrambles everyone's language. That's why it was called Tower of Babel.
Yep.
But another one of my favorite Batman Superman moments is in Hush, the Hush storyline, where Superman gets possessed by poison ivy, but he's fighting against it because he's Superman, and poison ivy is barely able to control him. And Batman is fighting him with this kryptonite ring, and the whole time Batman has this monologue like, "Thank fucking God Superman's a good guy. I cannot do this if he was serious."
Yeah.
I'm just a guy in a bat costume, goddammit.
Yeah, it's like, I know Superman is pulling his punches, but still.
Ouch.
I mean, the series was fun. I think a lot of the other RWBY, the other not to throw shade at the other RWBY tubers, I think they were definitely a little bit more harsh to this show. For me personally, it's just it's fun. I haven't imbibed in RWBY in since volume 9. So it's kind of like, I'm like nostalgic. I've got the fucking beer goggles on. I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
So, like I can definitely understand people being more jaded whenever it dropped post like volume 9, and they're like, really, this is what we're gonna get? Because like a lot of people were like rightfully worried that if this show flops, like Ruby's dead. And there was a period of time where like Ruby was functionally dead, and somehow in some way, like volume 10 is in production. But I remember we even had conversations amongst ourselves. It's like, well, if this isn't good, like how are they going to justify like pumping out volume 10?
Yeah. I
Um,
I I had an easier time turning my brain off and enjoying these movies than than The Rise of Skywalker. So there is that, but it was still very stupid. It was like, yeah, I watched it because I was bored.
I'm
Very,
kind of
very
wondering.
bored.
I don't I haven't looked into recently any of the other DC animated shows and movies. They put out a lot of them usually, just all the time. So
They're
I'm
they're
what
kind of hit and miss. I've watched a few of the cartoons because they'll end up like for free on like Amazon Prime TV. So their qualities kind of very like hit and miss.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
usually the case with them. I think the one thing that uh kind of got like the most tongue traffic on like Twitter and stuff was the Superman animated series, the most recent one.
My
Like,
Adventures with Superman, which was
yeah,
pretty good if it didn't have cringy ass Tumblr designs.
I didn't ever watch it.
Also, fuck Lois Lane in that cartoon, that manipulative bitch.
Hey,
Oh yeah.
look, you know what? If she was trying to get the Super D, I can't blame her. Whatever tactics
Is
work.
Lois Lane ever really likable though? I've never seen a Lois Lane that I like actually liked. I'm gonna be honest. And my dad used to read me like the original Superman comics when I was like a kid, and I even back then I was like,
She's tough. Like, she's
I
a
don't
tough
really like
character
Lois
to
Lane.
make
And my dad was
likable.
like, even back then, he was like, yeah, you're not. His interpretation was like, yeah, she's not great.
Her
I
her
remember
He's
movies.
like,
reading
don't marry a
Superman
woman like
Brainiac
this.
and thinking she was pretty cool. And that
She's the
one?
kind of person that only someone with the patience of Superman could put up with.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's kind of the core appeal. Like,
Yeah, but he's
Superman
Superman. He
loves
deserves
Lois
better.
Lane. Lois Lane doesn't actually stand a chance with anybody aside from Superman because no one else wants to put up with her. Like, that's a big part of their dynamic. At least my interpretation of it.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's. I've read like the 80s version of her, like in Man of Steel, and I thought that was okay, but like in the early 40s comics, yeah, no, she's yeah, just kind of I don't know. I I think it's interesting, like looking at the early 40s comics, like yeah, Lois Lane is kind of a pain in the ass, and Superman is like so determined to make Clark Kent into a wimp, and also Superman himself is kind of a menace in those. Like he
Well,
just
like, you gotta
kind of a
understand, this is
bully.
this is something that so many people don't realize about Superman. Because they see him like, oh, he's all a cliche and just a Boy Scout. Like, he's the subversion. Like, he's the original subversion. Like, heroes were not like that before, well, Doc Samson, who Superman kind of rips off. But, like, as far as comic book goes, and as far as pulp goes, it was literally just Doc Samson and Superman were, like, these genuinely good people who had, like, this cast of characters who were, like, not damn. Like, Lois Lane was oftentimes a damsel in distress, but she didn't act like a helpless damsel just waiting on Superman. She was always like a lot more proactive than other female characters of the 30s and 40s.
Lois
Superman
Lane
was
would
always
chew off her own
way
arm to
better.
get out
Yeah.
of the death trap the bad guy put her in.
Well, no, she didn't usually walk her own way out. She usually walked her own way in because of the spunky reporter stuff she was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite fucking things in a Superman cartoon is, I think it's in the Superman, Supergirl, Batman, Apocalypse movie, where, like, she gets kidnapped by terrorists, and, And they're like terrorizing Metropolis because like Superman's away. He's like in the Antarctic or something doing some tsunami work or whatever. And they're like, "Do you have any idea who you just captured?" Like she literally says that. Like, "Do you have any idea who I am?" I'm Lois Lane. I am Superman's like #1 reporter, and he can fly like the speed of light. He will be
Lois
here in
Lane's
30
like,
seconds
suffer,
to kick your
bitch.
ass.
Superman's
And
gonna
he's-
come here and felt you, suffer.
Yeah. But first, you got to deal with Supergirl, who is a temperamental teenager with insane amounts of power. And then, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I saw like Superman shows up, grabs like the helicopter, and is like holding on to it. He's like, and he tells Lois to like buckle up, so she does it. Then he just turns the helicopter sideways, and the guys fall out, and then he turns it back.
Oh god, I remember there was one bit with Lois Lane where like she's on a plane and it gets hijacked. I think it was Justice League was what was in, and she's like obviously like shit talking the terrorists, and then they're like, "All right, lady," it's like I'm gonna fasten your seatbelt real hard, and then Superman just like rotates the plane to knock out all the terrorists. Ah,
Yeah.
it was good, and she's just sitting there like all smug.
I think that was in one of the cartoons. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I can't remember which
Well,
one.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much Superman stuff. You can't. It all blends together after.
And so many
Yeah.
versions
Done.
of him just catching an airplane out of the sky. That's like his default setting.
Well, who else is going to
Done
catch
right.
Batman? What does Batman got?
The Flash? Flash can't even fly. He's lame.
Yeah.
Green Lantern could do it if he wasn't fucking around in space all the time. Letting his own coast city getting destroyed by Doomsday.
Maybe that's why he's always fucking around in. Maybe that's why he's always fucking around in space.
I guess to answer your question, dude, Lois Lane is cool when she's written right, but it's kind of a tightrope. I guess you could say I can understand why it would be hard to write her as an interesting character. But.
Hey, dumb question, media.
Yes, I have a dumb answer.
Has there ever been a legitimate, serious Justice League / DC crossover with My Hero Academia?
No.
Ooh, not that I'm aware of. I know MHA. I think MHA crossed over with Marvel, but I think that was just for like an art collab. That's the only MHA crossover I'm aware of.
I think someone in DC did included a copy of Okarun and Momo in one of their comics, actually.
But Koei Horikoshi should do more of that. Like MHA is more in the like Marvel vein of superhero. Like it's very much based on like X-Men. Like it's very X-Men inspired. Like I can see Class 1A crossing over with like some iteration of the X-Men, more so than like the Avengers or Justice League. And of course, Horikoshi is a big fan of Todd McFarlane, big fan of his work on Spider-Man, and a big fan of his work on Spawn. Stain is literally a walking caricature of Image Comics. I'd certainly read it more than the fucking Naruto Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover that happened.
Oh my god, that exists.
That was a thing, huh?
Yeah.
You gotta be shitting me.
Oh,
because
that is
ninjas.
Hilarious.
I don't want to believe it.
That's so lame.
I mean, neither franchise actually.
Fucking
has
RWBY needs
to
a
do with
crossover with
ninjutsu.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's 4. There's
They've
4 of
had
them.
They've had a Batman. They've crossed.
We already said the fucking Teen Titans is better. Let's stick with that. That's good enough. I think that's better. I honestly never, to be honest, maybe I'll get from this from maybe our audience, even you guys. I never really cared for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay. There's
fighting words?
certain bad TMNT, and there are also certain good TMNTs. Ironically, I would say the 2000s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is the best one. Similarly aired in a similar time frame to the best Justice League cartoon.
I think I had already written.
Yeah, it was in the same programming block as Teen Titans.
I think I had already written them off by then. That was probably the problem, because I think I had already written them off at that point.
Well,
yeah, I'm not the biggest Turtle fan either. But
in fairness, I also don't.
I
don't watch or read My Hero Academia. I don't watch or read any shonen action. So I can't comment on any of those like crossover potentials or possibilities.
MHA, I don't think would cross over that well with like anything really. Like MHA tried to be kind of edgy, sort of, but not X-Men levels of edge. Like they couldn't hang. I don't think that would be actually be like a tonally consistent crossover that they could do. And then like as far as like DC, I think MHA and DC might kind of work like a Justice League with them, but like Justice League would generally just kind of like be better than them in most ways and just kind of like overshadow them. And then I think Teen Titans might kind of work with MHA. I don't think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would work. I don't see how those would mesh together all that well. But
I've literally never watched an episode of MHA or read a single comic or manga. Two things I know about MHA are that Deku is kind of like Aang, basically, and that like he's a little bit milk toast and kind of lame, and not everybody likes him that much. And Ochiko X Todoroki is like the Zutara or Draco.
No, it's Bakugo.
Really?
It's
whatever.
Ochiko.
Oh, there you go, Bakugo. Whatever. I don't fucking know the characters. I know two names. I know Ochiko and I know Deku. That's it. I know those two names, and I think Deku has another name.
You don't need to know the characters, dude. You don't need to read the story. It's MHA is not that great.
That's what I know about it. That's all I got. I know nothing else. And then there's Demon Slayer, which is like kind of samurai-ish sort of thing. And then there's Nezuko, who has her mouth like taped with something. I don't know why. And then there's the purple girl that like everybody thinks is kind of hot, and that's kind of all I know.
Do you know what was the real big miss in Demon Slayer as like just something they could have done in one episode and just never think about it ever again? Because at the time period there would have been plenty of like Catholic Jesuits walking around, and they just run across this dude, he's about to get attacked by a demon, and the Catholic Jesuit priest is like, "The power of Christ compels you," and then the demon just explodes.
Well, I mean, they actually touch on the whole Jesuits being their thing in Shogun, which Shogun's actually really good. One of the reasons I never watched Shonen Action is like half the people really like it, and half the people just like are fucking complaining about it and how much worse it got later on. So that's why I never end up watching that stuff. That's why I just like watch and read a bunch of like romance and moage slop, because I know what I'm getting with that, and I'm getting exactly what I want, and I'm happy. You know what I mean? I'm not getting big expectations. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender actually mostly followed through on all of its shit. That's pretty rare for like a fantasy action epic thing. So,
how do you feel about the new? How do you feel about the new season that's coming out, where it's canon that Korra just fucking ruined everything for everyone?
Yeah, I know. I fucking hated the original. I hated Korra in the first place, so I just try to ignore that. Everything.
Korra haters stay winning.
Korra haters are. We've been right the entire time. We were always right. Okay, Korra was trash from the beginning. The whole concept of like, oh, it's like only a few years later. It's like what, 60 years later, and now we have all this insane technology, and we decided to put it in this like weird universe, and we have this weird like, oh, it's like a harmonious city. All that concept is so fucking stupid. Don't get me started how shitty fucking Korra is. And then it gets worse after that, because they didn't have a plan for it, and then the studio is like, because the first thing, original Avatar was like, look, we have this whole concept. We know how it's going to end. It's going to be 3 volumes, and it's going to be great. And the Nickelodeon's like, hey, can you please make more? We really like this. It's going great. And they're like, no, we're not, because we already have our ending written, and we're going to stick to our guns and have integrity as artists, and we're going to actually end it properly, and there you go. And then they did that, and then the studio's like, seriously, we'll give you more money. And they're like, fuck it. Here's this shitty Korra thing. And they're like, okay, people are paying money for this shitty Korra thing. Can you do more shitty Korra stuff? And they're like, well, we had no idea what to do besides the miniseries, so we're just going to make it even shittier now, and then we're going to fuck up the original characters, and we'll get money off of that. And then we'll just do a bunch of remakes that are all worse than the original, and yeah, fuck it. I hate it. It's all bad. So I try to ignore all of it. It's the post original Avatar universe is worse than post-original trilogy Star Wars. By a lot. Because at least with post-original trilogy Star Wars, we at least have Andor, which season 1 and 2 of Andor, fucking incredible. Honestly, better than the original Star Wars. They are that good. And also, or at least as good, and I'm not the only person who thinks that. Andor season 1 and 2 are that fucking good. And they had Clone Wars, the CGI Clone Wars TV show, where even though the characters all look like ass,
which we still never talked about, even though we talked about.
I know, I can't believe we didn't. Like the Siege of Mandalore arc with Ahsoka and Maul. Oh my god, it's so fucking peak. Peak.
So I got one more note about the RWBY Justice League crossover before we wrap this up, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about. What the fuck is Killer Croc doing in this?
Bro just shows up like the fucking Hulk and just enters stage right, leaves stage left, and that's
I'm not gonna lie.
Did I miss something? Is he like going through a face turn in the comics right now or something?
Because I don't know. I'm illiterate.
I was so confused. I actually thought it was Hulk for a second.
He was.
I'm not kidding. I really thought, wait, is that like a really badly drawn Hulk for a second? I was like, wait a minute, that's Killer Croc.
Like, Flash's rogues make sense. They're always teaming up with the heroes to save their own asses. That's kind of their thing. Especially, like, Mirror Master and Captain Cold, who is not in this, but Mirror Master is. But, like, what? With Killer Croc? That threw me for a loop. I could not believe it. I looked up and, like, is that supposed to be Killer Croc? And then they name drop Riddler and Catwoman as people who are helping, like... Okay, Catwoman? Yes, I know she, like, is a hero more times than not, but, like, fucking Riddler? No!
Well, and then fucking Joker and Harley are just, like, fucking drinking Mai Tais on the fucking Gotham City.
That tells me that's not, like, a continuity thing, because Joker and Harley Quinn have been, like, split city in the comics for, like, the past 10 years. I know that because they keep trying to shove Harley Quinn and Ivy down our throats as, like, a thing we're supposed to care about. But, like, I did not understand that creative decision. Like, there's so many other characters, like Clayface. Like, Clayface is mostly a villain, but I know he's had times where he's been one of the good guys. Like I said, like Captain Cold, same deal. He's been a good guy.
Clayface is a practical man.
Literally any Superman villain. Like, literally, Lex Luthor would be fucking on this. Like,
Lex
he would be
Luthor,
like, my time has come. Time to put on the power suit.
Lex Luthor is literally like, oh boy, I am so looking forward to this. Superman is gonna have to come begging and groveling to me after helping him save the day after this. It's like, oh, he was like cooming just at the thought.
Oh, you know what? Fucking Sinestro, he would probably do it too. Sinestro sometimes does good guy stuff.
Sinestro was originally a good guy. He was just a dickhead of a good guy.
Yeah, but he still comes back every so often and helps out with stuff. It usually has to be like cosmic level stuff for him to
like Black Lanterns. Like I read Blackest Night.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. That shit sucked. No, it was so stupid. It was so dumb. Would
have been better if Superman pulled the I didn't actually die in Death of Superman. I was put in a Kryptonian healing coma. That's why your powers don't work on me. But then his powers worked on him anyway. Because Jeff Johns. There's a lot of Jeff Johns-isms in this. Jessica Cruz existing. That's a Jeff Johns creation. Just this whole iteration of the Justice League was like a Jeff Johns thing when he was in charge of DC. Like, I literally can't believe that the writer for this is someone who worked at DC at the time that they were writing this, because, like, so many of the DC-isms are things from, like, fucking 10 years ago.
I think that's, like, this might have been trying to use, like, whatever the current... There's, like, a weird DC movie continuity, too, to where they try to link all of the movies together, and I'm talking about like the animated movies,
with Young Justice as well.
Yeah, and so it might have been that like at the time, the Justice League movie continuity was like 10 years behind the curve, which makes sense. That's usually how most DC animated stuff is. And they kind of were trying to tie it in with that. But I would have to go back and, like, this came out in 2023, right? I'd have to go back, look at what Justice League and Batman and Superman movies were coming out in 2023. There were probably a good number of them animated then, and see
Yeah.
what
I mean,
exactly
they
they
come out
were
with
trying to
like 3 animated Batman movies every fucking year.
Yeah. And it's too much work. I can't be bothered to do it. So anyway, guys, the next week I think we should go and watch all of the 2023 Justice League movies. And
No,
I'm gonna
thanks.
hang myself.
I keep telling myself that one of these days I'm going to catch up with all the DC animated movies, but they just keep coming. They won't stop. Like every 2 to 3 months, there's a new one.
they crank those things out in Korea really fast, I'll tell you guys. You would not believe the amount of rice they have to sell the Koreans just to give them the fuel to make those movies.
So, final thoughts on this crossover?
It was dumb and it was fun.
Could have done without it, but it's a little bit embarrassing that Yang is better in these two movies than she is kind of throughout the most, if not all, of the series of RWBY itself. It's a little sad.
It's got me wondering things about, like, now that RWBY is self-owned again, sort of semi. Are they gonna do more crossovers with anybody else, or what's going to happen with them in the future? It's got me thinking about, like, what could possibly go on with it
I
again.
feel like they could, because I feel like we talked about this earlier. Is like I thought, they always said 10 seasons or so, but like I think media pointed out, like, well, Viz did not buy them to do one more season, so there's no way we're going to get at least 2 more seasons of the actual RWBY show, maybe 3. I'm guessing 2 to 3 at this point. And yeah, if they can get their monies, depending on how well this crossover did, we don't really know how well it did. Then yeah, they could definitely do more stuff
Yeah,
like
it
that.
did not do well enough to save Rooster Teeth. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, but I don't think anything at that point was going to save Rooster Teeth. Let's be honest. So, how good were they really expecting it to be? Like, it would have had to do fucking gangbusters to save Rooster Teeth at that point. I don't think anything was saving them at that there, because we know RWBY as a show overall seems to be doing pretty decently well. There's still like a decent,
Well,
like, it still gets attention. It was their one thing that was it kept them afloat for longer than they should have stayed afloat. Honestly, I think without RWBY they would have gone under much earlier. So I'm just saying, like, I think Viz, if they're paying for RWBY, they bought the rights to RWBY, they're gonna get more out of it than just one season of the mainline show. They're going to get at least 2 to 3 seasons of the mainline show. And yeah, they might do some other stuff, like put them in more fighting games and shit, because the characters definitely work well in that sort of context, for sure.
I would assume that if it's with them, there would probably be more crossovers with other anime things.
I would think that would make a lot more sense, because honestly, like, maybe not in the concept of the universe as well, but like RWBY characters fighting like fake characters, that would look cool. Like, I just feel like that would work better than it would with DC heroes in terms of they fight and shit. You know what I mean? That, to me, that would work better. I would want to see something like that.
It's more aesthetically somewhat aligned, kind of.
So I liked it more. Robert dipped out, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, he left around like 10 minutes ago.
Okay, so not that long. I liked it more than I thought I would, but I thought I was gonna fucking hate this. I thought I was gonna hate this like Volume 5 levels of bad. And it was not that awful. But it's still like it didn't need to exist. It did no one really benefits from this. Like, it's neat, but it's like very generic, like milquetoast the crossover that misses on a lot of the core appeals of crossing over franchises like this. So I can't really give it a pass, even if I did think it was funny and enjoyed it while I was watching it. And if you want to see me talk about another thing that, well, actually, there's no way this is going to go up before the next live show. Because I had a very similar opinion to Jurassic World Rebirth. Where I thought I was going to hate it. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, but it was still really bad. But I'll be talking about that on my next live show, which is going to be like 2 to 3 live shows earlier than this is going up, because I still have a lot of editing to do on the Ice Queendom podcast. So I'm going to stop it here. Thank you all for watching. I do have books out. The Hellfire Brats, Nephilim Strain, Grand Selection, Golden Key coming out later this year. Follow me on Twitter. Like, comment, subscribe. Join me on my live show. Ask me comic book questions, and I will give you answers, even if they're like half made up.
Based.
Do not ask me comic book questions. I will know nothing.
I'll know half as much as media does, maybe, if I can remember it. I did read some comics at some point in time, but
maybe one day I'll get my big screen beyond 2E. Maybe one day.